Welcome, seekers and visionaries, to Oracle Mountain Chats. Here on this sacred virtual peak, we gather, a space for oracles to share their wisdom, their visions, and their craft. It all began with a calling I could not ignore. One day, within a vision, I held this conch shell in my hands, and as I blew its resonant note into the world, I felt its vibration ripple across unseen realms. It was a summons, a signal to fellow oracles scattered near and far. I saw that we were on a mountain, vast and towering, reaching into the heavens. At its base, the world buzzed with life, people moving, creating, searching. Yet at the summit, there was stillness, clarity, and a circle of light. There, oracles stood, their gaze focused both outward and inward. They spoke of the energies they felt, the shifts they saw, and the whispers of the unseen. They weren't above the world, they were its witnesses and its guides. From this vision, OracleFest was born, a celebration of connection, insight, and the timeless wisdom that flows through us all. Here we gather as oracles to share the visions Spirit whispers to us, to speak of the energy currents flowing through nature and humanity, and to help guide those who seek answers in a world that often feels lost. So grab a seat, breathe in the mountain air, and join us as we begin today's chat. Whether it's an energy reading, a conversation about our craft, our path, or simply sharing a perspective on the world below, this is where we wait for more oracles to join us on the mountain. What wisdom will the mountain bring us today? Let's find out together. Step into this sacred space where the wisdom of the ages converges with the questions of the present.
All right, here we find ourselves back on Oracle Mountain, and this time we're joined by someone who I've had the pleasure of meeting in person in the UK, even though we come from the same country of Canada originally, which is always interesting when I meet people abroad. But we still kind of have some similarities from our background. So I'm so pleased to bring Diane Quartly to Oracle Mountain today to join us here on the mountain to talk about mediumship, probably to talk about a lot of different things because I have a feeling you're similar to me. There's lots of different directions you find fascinating. So we can allow this to be an open space. But I know Diane's special connection is with mediumship and helping others with connecting to loved ones. And she also calls herself an energy interpreter. And I would love if you could explain to folks what you mean by energy interpreter, because I think it's so relatable.
Well, I think most of us are energy interpreters just as being human. But first of all, I want to thank you for trusting me to be on your program. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's great to talk to like-minded people. I absolutely adore speaking the language of spirit and in all forms. And I know we had that great connection. It was like, you are Canadian. I know you're Canadian.
Yeah,
It's like you have a vibe, right?
there
It's
is
like this whole group of people, but it's like I feel like I know you.
a friendly
So
face in the corner
exactly
saying
that
hello,
connection.
howdy neighbor. How's
Yeah,
it going,
had
eh?
nothing to do with psychic abilities. It was just like I recognize you. Yeah, exactly.
That's often how it is. I was joking about that with someone recently because I was spending time with one of the OracleFest speakers, and I was like, we didn't even really talk about spiritual stuff that much. It was like we
Yeah,
just hung out and played music. Like, oh, okay. It's kind of what we
exactly.
end up doing.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I like the term energy interpreter because I find um in our world of woo-woo, whatever you want to call it, I think of it in so many different terms. So many people are doing it now that everybody's trying to find their niche and everybody's like, I'm this, I'm that, and we're focusing on labels. And yes, I say I'm a medium because that sort of gives people that idea of, okay, you connect to our loved ones in the other side. So absolutely, I'm a medium. I think we can all connect in a certain way. I love the idea of energy interpreter because to me, we all interpret energy all day long. We all interpret energy when you walk into a room, as we maneuver through the day, as we live life. We are interpreting energy. We are all energy, we're all vibrations. So we are all interpreting energy just to function in the world. So, it takes kind of the woo-woo out of it, but in the same aspect, it's like we can all do this. Everybody can do this at a certain level. And I do believe that anybody can be taught to interpret energy,
Hmm.
in some ways. We're all psychic in some way. We all have mediumship in some ways. People get, and I think as when we're really, really young, it's really easy to do mediumship. I think that we can pick up on things. That's why you see babies that stare off into corners and things because they're connecting with the other side. As we get older and we release some of the strings and attachments and connections that we have to the physical, we start to do mediumship more. How many people have heard stories of elderly people saying, "Oh, I had a visitor last night," or "I dreamt of somebody," or I saw somebody walking down the hall, things like that. So that's all mediumship where you're connecting to our loved ones in the now, where psychically it can be past, present, future. We can be, wherever. So yeah, that's
Right.
kind of that's why I love the term energy interpreter, because it is sort of encompasses everybody, and then it takes sort of the skill out of it. Everybody can do it at a certain level. It's kind of like singing, right? So everybody
Yes.
can sing, everybody can make noise, whether you do it naturally, whether you can are taught technically, whether you are totally tone deaf, but try your best. You can, everybody can, some people can sing with their hands, right?
Hmm.
So we can all do it. And that's how I feel about this psychic work, mediumship, energy interpretation. We can all do it. You're either
Hmm.
on or you're off. And I know a lot of mediums that are really, really good, myself included, that can do mediumship and have the practice and the skills to do it, but I can be off just like that,
Yes.
right? You're
Yeah.
either on or you're off. And I think everybody's kind of like that.
I often think about this when I reflect on our like social media mediums and psychics, and our celebrity mediums and psychics, that some of them really work to like a really wild extent, and others are really measured about showing up a few times a year because that's what energy they want to like hold and take with it. They want to do big shows, but a few times a year and then let it be,
Yeah.
and or do writing and do other work, right? That's more private and inward. And so there's this path of the oracle that, we talk a lot about, that I keep thinking about now. This is our 30th Oracle Mountain Chat. And so it's revealing to me a lot about all our various paths as oracles and the different ways like it gets expressed. Your version of that being more closely connected to mediumship. I wonder, about how realistic it is for a lot of people, their expectations about mediumship because of some of the things we see. Like I have to laugh when I think about Long Island Medium, because she's one of those people who says, I never turn off. Spirit's always on for me, right? And so there's this sort of, and God love her, Teresa. She's a funny character, and so I know why people love to watch her. Like she's endearing, and so I totally get it. And then I think, man, someone should check in on her. Like that's not probably very good feeling on your nervous system, but I don't necessarily feel like I have big on off switches. It's a bit more subtle in the way that I travel, and it seems okay. It seems like I can be a normal person most of the time. That's kind of what we're worried about, is like, can we stay on solid ground and not go into the ethers completely and just be like, well, I was talking to Anne Begonia today, and then that's your day. I think
Well, and I
that's our
think it's a
fear, maybe.
balance.
Yeah.
I think it's a balance for sure. And it's so funny, before you said Teresa, I was thinking about her because she's a perfect example, where she's very flamboyant. She's very out there. She's very like, looks like she's running up and attacking people and everything, but that's all a persona. And, we tend to, I've heard a lot of mediums really kind of diss her a little bit and say, that's not authentic and blah, blah, blah. And I went and saw her. And I saw her in person, and she didn't put on a great performance. But
Mm,
people in that audience loved it.
hmm.
But and so I really had to sit back and go, okay, part of it is the persona.
Hmm.
She's a celebrity. People just want to meet her. The people that she connected with, I thought, as a medium, I'm like, oh, that's pretty generic, or that's general, or I could have got more, or whatever. But I also recognize in when you got 1,000 people sitting there,
There's only so much
you
you want to
want
have
her
shared, right?
her. And the people that she connected with got something out of it. They
Hmm.
felt the connection,
Hmm.
right? And they, even if she had one thing out of five things she said that really rooted
Mhm.
and connected with them, good on her. And that
Mhm.
that person walked away feeling like that. And other people in the crowd saw it, and whether they believed it or thought it was good, or mediums that are, judging, and it could have been, but and knows more of the technical part of it, she did great. She put on a
Mhm.
show. Everybody walked away with smiles on their faces. And I think, and yeah, there's tips and tricks to the trade as well.
Mhm.
If I'm having a day, like I have to keep my energy. I always tell people, I lift my energy, spirit lowers their energy, we connect, right?
Mhm.
There's a energetic balance there, and that has to happen. Some days if I have a headache before I go into a reading and somebody's booked 3 months ahead, I don't want to not show up. So
Mhm.
maybe I go, but I have a little bit of a headache. Maybe um I'm not on 100%, but I know enough and I can connect enough to maybe connect 80%. Well, that
Mhm.
person, if they walk away happy,
Mhm.
yeah, I could have done a better job. But I feel bad sometimes when I'm not totally on, but
Mhm.
generally I'm the only one that knows that I'm not totally on, because
Yeah.
80% is pretty good and you're giving people what they want, right?
Yeah,
So
and it's about the pacing for them too, right? Like I often think, well, sometimes, sometimes you're getting the headache to slow you down because they need a slower pace of how much information they're ready to receive. Like this happens to me a lot. I'm
yeah.
like a busy brain, not necessarily busy in a bad way, but she's got a lot of thoughts in here. We're moving pretty quick. We're moving at a speed that not a lot of people find comfortable. And I've had to recognize it over time. There's like, yeah, you know what? I'm feeling a little more because that's where this person's at, and it's allowing me to help meet them where they're actually at on a human level, not me trying to impress you or prove to you or show to you, right? Because that's not really authentic to who you are. And if you go in as Diane, who has a little bit of a headache but is really here open hearted to serve, then it's so much more likely they're going to get exactly what they need anyway than if you had done that 100% but you were forcing something through it in some way of yourself. You know what I mean? Like that you have to kind of this performative stuff is really challenging.
Exactly. And I think that there are a lot of people out there doing this work, and I just think we have to be soft with it, because there are professionals that just have a bad day. It's not like you go to your favorite store and the person that's behind the counter doesn't serve you good well that one day, or you go to a restaurant and the waitress is having a bad day. You don't not go to, well, most people, if it's your favorite restaurant, you recognize that and go, oh, she's having a bad day, and you carry
Mm-hmm.
on, right? Like
Yeah.
you give people the benefit of the doubt, and you don't walk away and trash them and say, oh, they're just terrible, they're not good. And
Yeah.
so I think in the grand scheme of things, we have to be a little bit more gentle, because there's a lot of people, but there are a lot of, I don't want to say charlatans, because I think there's a lot of people that genuinely want to do well in this work. They genuinely want to perform well for people. They want to come up with things, and they're attracted to it. They're interested in it. So, they just don't have the practice in it maybe, or they're, like I say, they're more concerned. Maybe they got financial problems and they're more concerned about filling their bank account, but they want to do a good job. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so many different things, and that's like we have good doctors, we have bad doctors, we have mediocre doctors.
Absolutely.
So I think
And
in
we have
the
doctors who
in
like
the
practice
world there's,
medicine,
but
right? Like from that way and from another way. And they're both so valid in their fields, right? But they're practicing in different
yeah,
ways.
some doctors do it for the money, and some
Yep.
doctors do it for the love of treating patients.
Yep.
One is not any better than the other, maybe in their practice, but where they're coming from. And really, if somebody's doing it for the money, but they're giving me what I need,
Yep.
I'm okay with that too, right? Like
Yep.
I think at the end of the day, we all serve ourselves as we serve others. I
Mm-hmm.
always laughed at that when I thought, very religious people that say serve, 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 serve. I'm like, what? Well, why are you serving?
Mm-hmm.
Or people in the world, why are you serving? Because it makes you feel good. Well,
Mm-hmm.
isn't that self-serving too then?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're doing it under duress because you think you have to, that's one thing, and that doesn't serve anybody, I don't think. But if you're doing it because you genuinely want to help people, you're getting something out of it too. So I think it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know. It's like we need to be real with this. If we want this to become
Absolutely.
mainstream, and I really do think that it needs to become so that everybody's open and everybody wants to connect when they can and help where they can. A parent,
Hmm.
um, we rely on our intuition, and we
Hmm.
have for decades and generations. And I grew up with a grandmother that was very intuitive on my dad's side.
Hmm.
And we never said psychic, we never said medium, but we listened when grandma said she knew something, we
Hmm.
paid attention. But
Yep.
we used the word intuitive, so it was okay. It wasn't woo-woo, it wasn't scary, it wasn't anything that we had to worry about. It's like, oh, grandma's really intuitive, or Auntie Rose is very intuitive, or
Hmm.
whatever, right? And that made it okay. But as soon as we start, the new age using the new words and speaking the language of spirit in different terms, some people are like, oh no, oh no. But we've been doing this for decades. We've been doing this, well, since we became human. We've
Yes.
been doing this. We're all connected to the same source. We're all connected to that energy that brings life. So we've all been doing it.
You know, it's so interesting because when you were talking about energy interpreter, I was thinking about this. Like when I sit in shamanic healing circles where there's like an equality among us as practitioners, and we're all in service to one person lying in the center, there's like 8 of us around this circle. In one of the types of work that I do, that I love to do, um, when I sit in a space like that, and I'm sitting channeling someone's spirit, guide, and then there's someone else with another spirit guide. We're all embodying different spirit guides. It's a really fascinating process. You have to know this in order to know how interesting, how telling it is of this is how it works. We're all interpreting differently, and it's still the same energy, right? So I might see something like a band of blue lightning bolts around someone's midsection, and someone else is like, you know what I see? I see a whole bunch of mosquitoes flying in and around your belly. And I'd go, oh, that was the lightning bolts. That makes sense. And
Yeah.
so, is it mosquitoes or is it lightning bolts? Do we have to care? Do we have to be so finite? Do we have to be so firm? Did that medium recall what that child loved as their favorite cereal as a kid? Or was that some other piece of information that they just misinterpreted how that energy was? Because as when mediums are getting evidence for things and looking for facts or trying to interpret, okay, we've got the spirit here, but what can we know? What can we feel? What can we sense? What can we just intuit in some way? What do I hear in order to try and help the person see, wow, we've got this, right?
Yeah.
And that process for a lot of people is where they get scared off of pursuing mediumship, even in their own lives, because they'll brush off one or two things thinking, no, 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 before they've interpreted it in a way that is supportive. And in the shamanic realm, often how someone gets a message, I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. That's not how I would have received it. But it totally makes sense for them. And it that is why it's so important to help guide people to do this work on their own, as well as receive messages from us. Do you feel passionately about that as well? That you would love like people in your clients, like your audiences and your clients, to be able to tap into this mediumship skill for themselves? Like in the end, that's like your ultimate
Absolutely.
hope, right?
Yeah, I teach classes, and I love when people come in, and I have a lot of people that come to workshops and everything that have zero idea. And I used to have like a beginner and then an advanced class, and now I just run one class because, like I said before, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. I've had advanced classes where people come in and don't do very well in certain aspects. And
Mm-hmm.
then I have beginner classes where people are talking to dead people in 2 days and doing
Mm-hmm.
it like extremely well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they're open and they're just coming in and going. So I just run the one class and call it,
Good.
like energy interpretation class or a
Love it.
psychic energy beginner or something. And I just do it and I open it up because, like I said, you're either on or you're off. And I love the symbols. We all build spirit dictionaries. You were talking about the lightning bolts as opposed to the mosquitoes. It's kind of that thing. Sometimes an apple is just an apple. And this
Mm-hmm.
is analogy I use all the time. And it's like I can do a reading, and to me, and if I have a flash of an apple in my head, because spirit works with me and I see different symbols now.
Yeah.
And if I see an apple, for me, that means education.
Uh-huh. Right.
An apple on the teacher's desk, and that's just my generation and probably something that I picked up from when I was young. And so an apple symbolizes a teacher to me. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, an apple would symbolize healthcare for them,
Yes.
right?
Right. Right.
Sometimes an apple is just an apple.
Sometimes that person really just loved apples.
Or their family owned an orchard or whatever,
Totally.
right? So if
Totally.
I see it and I get so stuck on my symbolism,
Yep.
and I get a no from somebody, if I'm like, oh, I
They
can
were a
look at them and
teacher.
go, an apple comes in, and here's an example, an apple comes in, and I'll be like, oh, I see that this person was into education, and they go, no.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay. And that's where I'll go, I'll tell you why I get that. And I tell them. The
Yes.
reason I said that was because my sign for
Hmm.
education is an apple. And they'll say, "Oh, my grandfather had an apple orchard." It's
Yes.
like, it doesn't hurt, right? Like we're not,
Yes.
but if I was stuck on, no, I know my signs and try to make that fit, it doesn't work.
Hmm.
Sometimes an apple is just an apple. And you got to
Hmm.
just, let the person in on the conversation so that you can figure some things out in
Hmm.
it. So
Otherwise, it's like forcing it to fit or something. And then there's like this
yeah, and I'm
pressure
not
that ends up,
structured that way. I mean,
no.
I've gone to different workshops, I've gone to different, and I see the value in that sort of really structured, evidential mediumship. And I get that. But I always tell people when I do my readings, if this is about me showing you how good I am, then great. I can sit here and just give you that structure and I can give you validation after validation after validation. But you already know your grandfather had an apple orchard.
Hmm.
So me telling you for a half hour or an hour, things that you already know, to me, it's like, okay, so now you know I'm good at what I do. And you know that I've connected with somebody. And there's value in that. There's
Yeah.
value in, oh, she's connecting. So in their brain, they're thinking does still exist, or,
Hmm.
there's things. But to me, it's like, let's go beyond that. Let's have a
Hmm.
conversation and let's get you some information that maybe you don't know. The validations are going to come anyway.
Hmm.
I'm doing a reading with somebody in Quebec or Ontario that I've never met. I get their name, they book online. I know nothing about them. Validations are going to come
Hmm.
throughout the time. It's going to happen.
Because
But
it's important for them to trust. So your guides, your spirits, they're going to be making sure that this information comes through you. But like what a
exactly,
lot of people early on in their journey of like professionalizing their mediumship skills, because this is, I think, what we're kind of focused on is talking about that, like helping people with that in between of like, how do you shift into that full trust, full embrace? Because yeah, if we have more professional, confident mediums who are balanced in their work, who are
yeah,
balanced in their life, then it shows more people that it's not as wacky as they once thought, right? Because
exactly.
if we see people who are really struggling and who are really scared and who are really afraid of doing mediumship, we're going to keep putting more of that energy into the collective, right? So I love your message because it's much more about how can we free up to just be a little gentler on the expectations of what we're looking for. And at the same
Exactly.
time, that's how you get what you're looking for. Is that if you don't hold the expectation, right? Like I've never gone to see a medium thinking, I need to talk to a certain person or I want a specific outcome. I'm like, wow, that's pretty wild if anyone gets anything about me. And I still think that. I still think it's really, really mind blowing that anyone could feel into my energy enough to know someone who I've known. I actually have not had a lot of very important people to me pass on, like in my own. So it's a really a big thing, I think, when someone can find that. And every single time it's happened, and my friends will go, oh my God, you were so lucky, or I was really not expecting anything and I was very open. And so I was like willing to be proved wrong in my mind, right? Of like, I was so willing to see what happens. And I remember even thinking those things that people say, before of just like, oh, don't give them more information. And like these types of guards and these types of messages are so outdated at this point. Like it's so not useful to our whole collective because all of us have recognized at this point the benefit, at least for some people,
Yeah.
about having that connection, whether you have found the need for it or not. Like I was not searching out the need, oh my God, I have to speak to a medium because I need to connect with a specific person.
Yeah.
It just happened upon me because I was at events and it worked out that way. Um, but I think that like I was very scared when it first started coming in for me as a skill because I felt like the person who was coming to see me should have come to see her own son and not me. And so I was like, oh, I'm not deserving of this. Like, that's a very special honor. So sometimes we believe in mediums so much that we actually distance our own self from creating that connection too. And I think that's actually one of the risks that OracleFest could do a good job of helping people see. Hey, you're also the Oracle. So yes, I'm here to provide this open door gateway. I'm going to make this super access pass super fast for you to fly on the train towards that skill. But like, you're the one boarding the train and I can't force you on or off, right? And like, there is still this place that they're going after you, or that we actually honor that part of everyone's journey. It's like, because I think there's so many people who get so many signs and just say, I can't, that's not me, I must go to someone else who's already said I do that. And the only difference is that they say I do that versus I don't. Like, truly, someone said yes to helping that many more people, and then that's their validation, right? So
Yeah.
that trust building is such a key, especially with mediumship. Trust is so
Yeah.
so
I think
yeah.
there's certainly value in, I mean, as a medium, I do give validations. I think it's
Yes.
important to have those things. I find towards the end of a reading, I've got to the point now where I'm like, okay, give me a few things that
Mhm.
I can leave them with at the end. And then there'll just be things like, that'll just pop in at the
Mhm.
end, and it might be a word, it might be a phrase, it might be just, oh, have you changed the tires from your summer tires to your winter tires? Because your dad says you should. Or
I love
I
those
find men come in and tell us things like that. It's so
stuff we
funny
got to
when
do,
reading
reminders.
for dads, and especially dads, or husbands, and they come in and quite often they'll have a list of like, the sink in the bathroom isn't right, plumbing things, or you need to go around the back of the house and check this, and there's things, or dads looking after their daughters or things like
Mhm.
that. Have you gone and changed your winter tires to your
Right.
summer tires to things like that. So they kind of come in as well. And so those are kind of fun things. And those are things that,
Yeah.
the reader will be like, yeah, my dad always told me that he was like, the person that made sure I did that. And I haven't done it this time. Or, those are some examples of things that have kind of come up.
I love
So,
that. And it's like so protective and like responsible of our masculine spirits to, like, even while they leave this world, still be trying to support and provide for us and like
well,
protect
and
us,
that's
keep
what
us
they would
safe.
have
It's
done
so
for
amazing.
their, yeah, it's
Exactly.
things that they would have done. And it's
Yeah.
those little things. I always say it's those little things. There was one time when I was doing a reading, and towards the end, I had finished the readings, and I was walking this person out to the door, and we had to go down the stairwell at the time, and we're walking down, and I'm like, I just keep hearing blue jays, like I see a blue jay, I'm hearing blue jays and everything. She just stopped dead, and she was like, the Toronto Blue Jays were my dad's favorite team. And she was just like, and that just was a Blue Jay at the end of a reading that just kind
Yes.
of came through, and he just wanted to leave her with something. So I tend to do that now at the end of the reading, you get these two or three little sort of just things that
Hmm.
the validation that you want, right? But during the reading, it's like validations will come, or I'll see things, and I interpret all different things. I see things, I hear things, I get feelings about things. Sometimes I smell or
Hmm.
taste things, which isn't really great sometimes.
Yep.
And I've built this symbol dictionary that I have going on. So,
Of
but
course.
sometimes it takes work, in the world nowadays. I have a lot of um people that come to see me that have, I don't want to call them broken families, but very diverse families.
Hmm.
So you try to go, oh, I got a figure. Well, my father's still living. No, this person has passed. And it's
Yeah,
like,
but it's a figure.
hey,
It's someone who related in that way, or held that archetype of father to them, and so it's
or
like a
yeah,
deeper
and I'm
search. Yeah.
finding, I know culturally in our area, a lot of grandfathers or grandparents
Hmm.
raised a lot.
Yeah.
I've found that a lot in my area where
Yeah.
grandparents raise children.
Yeah.
So they come through to me maybe as a father figure,
Hmm.
but it's a grandfather.
Yes.
And so sometimes, and if I get that, and I'll say, I see your father has passed, and they'll be like, no, my father. I'm like, well, this person's coming through as a father figure. Oh yeah, well, my grandparents raised me. Okay.
Yes.
So there's some little things like that maybe I could be better at it. I don't know. Maybe it should come in as grandfather, as father. Maybe I'll build a symbol for that one day or something,
Yeah.
that'll give me that exact thing. But I don't
But in
take
a
it
sense,
seriously. I take it,
yeah.
I respect spirit enough to show up and do the job.
Mhm.
People pay me money to do this. So I respect that aspect of it, and I
Mhm.
show up. I keep my life calm as I can, and I try to stay in that higher happy vibrational space most of the time so that I can show up for people properly to do
Mhm.
the job properly. I do, well, anywhere from 8 to 12 readings a week now.
Mhm.
So, but I would never really do more than that unless I'm doing like a special thing,
Mhm.
because I need to hold my energy at a certain space in order to give. I want to be 80% above, right?
Yep.
Like I
Yep.
never want to dip below 80%, and I want to be able to show up for people. So that's my responsibility, and I take that very seriously.
And
And I
that's
take,
maybe what people don't realize that they are actually paying for, in a sense.
oh yeah,
I talk about this with spiritual folk a lot, that a lot of people think that it's the outcome or what they get out of it that they're paying for. And in reality, a lot of it is actually access to an energetic frequency and someone who is able to hold and then has the frameworks built in. That's a lot of what we're doing as professionals. I think on a psychological level, we're building in frameworks that allow us to access the energies and assess what's coming in a more efficient way, right?
exactly. And that's the
And
thing, right? In order
so
to do this job effectively and to show up. And I've had readings because I love to have readings from different
me
practitioners to
too.
help me work and tune in. And sometimes I
Yeah,
have a specific question. So
of course.
I'll go to, and I try all different kinds of practitioners and how they work. One time I called a lady that I had heard from somebody else, and I called her, and I could tell while she was giving me this quick reading that she was walking around like cleaning her house or something.
Hmm.
And I was like, and she was out of breath. She's moving around, she's doing this, and she's kind of losing her focus and everything. And I'm like, okay. And she was an older lady, been doing sort of the psychic hotline kind of things.
Hmm.
That's sort of the vibe I got from it.
Hmm.
It was not very expensive, and I mean whatever. And I got a couple things. She was good at what she did, so I got a few things, but it was very distracting. And that was one of the things I thought, I'm never doing that. I'm never getting bored with this work to the point where I don't show up and respect the people that I'm reading for.
Yeah.
I take the time to show up and respect. I take the time to sit. It only takes me a few minutes now to get into the energy, but
Hmm.
I need that few minutes to get into the energy. If I'm
Yeah.
doing something that I know, and I get feelings ahead of time that there's
Hmm.
something, perhaps, and being in a small town, I've had readings where somebody has booked something and I know they just lost somebody in their lives.
Hmm.
And so then I show up and I know it's going to be, a little bit more difficult or whatever. So I prepare for that. And
Yeah.
that's part of it. You know, I think just living a good, healthy lifestyle keeps me doing the job better. And that's the work that I put in. But
Hmm.
I also think it's a lot of fun. And I think
Hmm.
spirit wants us to have fun. They don't take things seriously.
Hmm.
And for the most part, and I use so many analogies in my work. I love analogies, and one analogy is like, if you love scary movies, you go to the theater, and for that time, you're scared to death. But when you walk out, that was just a portion of your life. That was just
Hmm.
a story. That was a chapter in your life. And you walk out, and people like to go to scary movies because they know when they walk out the door, they're safe. They're
Hmm.
not living that. That's
Hmm.
just a chapter in the story that they get to
Hmm.
do, right?
And
So
it's a
they
thrill. There's like
and it's a
excitement.
thrill of it. Exactly. So we have responsibility to kind of hold our space. I don't go to scary movies. I can't. I
Hmm.
can't. And part of that is when I first started doing mediumship, I literally sat down and wrote out sort of a contract to my guides of what I would and would not do.
Hmm.
And I have that contract. I have amended it now,
Hmm.
but when I first started, I'm like, If somebody died in an auto accident, I don't want to see the bloody dead body. Like
Hmm.
I don't want to see that. Tell me
Yep.
that. Don't show me that. That's something I
Yep.
don't want to see. And I
Yep.
think for me, not witnessing and seeing, so I don't watch a lot of blood and gore and things like that
Yeah.
because it's too easy for that to come into my brain then
Yeah.
as a
As a
picture,
reference. Yeah.
if it's similar,
Yep.
as a reference. So I keep my I keep my energy clean by not doing that,
Yeah.
and
Keep
I'm
your
more
media clean.
claircognizant. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, right? It's like, yeah, it's like being on Facebook and having your algorithm, right? Like I choose my algorithm and then I can tune into it, but that doesn't mean that I don't dip in and check the news once in a while and see what's going on.
Hmm.
And I'm more claircognizant, so I just get information, blocks of information kind of dropped into my brain, and then I
Hmm.
can tell you it. So I've built that over time. When I first started doing it, Spirit had to kind of show me a little bit more solid for me to be confident enough to say it, where
Hmm.
now it can be just a
Yeah.
random thought that comes in, and I've done this long enough that I can just pick it up a lot easier.
Yeah.
And they can tell me, oh, this person died in the accident, they lost their left arm in the accident, or what have you, come through. I don't have to see it
Yeah.
to trust that I'm getting what I'm getting, and spirit can give it to me a lot easier and cleaner.
Absolutely.
I say
It's such a hang
I'm
up,
a big
right?
wimp. I don't want to see it.
No, exactly. And I know I've had to make some of those as well, rules or guidelines in my mental perspective to be like, how are we going to keep this like possible and sustainable for me to keep holding and allowing all this information through me, right? And if the thing is like, I'm jumping every time you see something like that, then okay, then that's your reaction. That's where you're getting in the way of a message coming through. So we need to figure out a way. It's a relationship, isn't it? Right? It's a communication relationship. And I love sometimes with dreams because people will come to me with a dream that they don't understand and it's plaguing them because it's recurring. And sometimes I can see maybe more insightfully the patterns and like, whoa, obviously it's saying this. But other times when it's still like, you know what, that is a little curious. Why don't you just ask your guides to send you something that makes more sense? They're clearly thinking they're sending you the right message for you to get it, but you haven't gotten it. They probably want to help you. I don't think they're wanting it to go by you. They're wanting you to receive the message. And so, like, if I could encourage anyone to like listen to Diane and think, if you're opening up to any psychic awarenesses, but like mediumship especially, and you're getting these little signals, little messages, like it is in the little things and it is in respecting this relationship as like we're opening up access and creating your own dictionary. That was like such a good way of putting it. I feel very spatial with my like awareness and it's fairly clear cognizant and feeling based as well. So I used to just, be like in a situation feeling really like, okay, I'm getting really distracted. Oh, that's their feeling. Oh, okay. And then things made a lot more sense. I stopped getting in the way thinking I'm doing wrong. I'm not showing them da, 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 da. Oh, wait, this is how they're feeling. I can be off because I open up my body to say before a session, show me what I got to see. It's an easy way for me to know and to feel and to drop things when they're done. That's my other agreement with spirit. Don't give me anything I don't need to carry on after that, please. I don't want to keep it. And so we build these sort of like agreements and arrangements with our guides or with divine spirit energy and yeah, it's really important. I think that is how people go from like amateur to professional, is building in some of these boundaries, these tools, these frameworks in order to have a little bit of that structure. Otherwise, it does become a little bit too chaotic in the total free flowing space, even though intuition is this very vast expanse.
It is, but it is technical too, and
It
you
is.
pick up on that where you learn to control it. And I tell people that all the time. You're in total control.
Mhm.
Like spirit is never if spirit is telling you to do something you don't want to do or to say something you don't want to say, I always like I've had some pretty tough conversations where somebody's come through and I'll be like, I'm not saying that. Give it to me a different way.
Mhm.
Like, if you want me to approach this subject, then I better be clear with what I'm doing here. And I'll say, give
Mhm.
it to me in a different way. Give me an analogy or give me something softer or whatever. And
Yeah.
ask for that because at the end of the day, I have to be okay and comfortable with what I'm talking about.
You're still
And
you, Diane, and you're still the translator. So you have
exactly.
your role in that, right? And that is the responsibility you take on, is like, I'm gonna
Yeah,
try
and
to
you
be
have
a
to be able
channel who's like
to,
softer.
and you have to respect the person of, oh, yeah, a perfect example. One time when I was first starting, I had this um lady come to see me, and she was in her 30s, something like that. And she sat down and we were talking, and all of a sudden her uncle came through. And I could tell that there was a lot of animosity. I could tell that this uncle was coming through, and he was showing me a symbol for peace, and a white rose is a symbol that I have for peace. Now, it can be a peace offering, or it can be sending you peace and love, right?
Mhm.
So it can, even that can be a symbol for different things. He
Mhm.
came in, hat in hand, handing this rose, and I'm like, this is a peace offering. So obviously, the way it came through, there was animosity. So I said to her, I see an uncle coming through, and he's coming with a peace offering. Right away, she was like, no, this uncle had abused her
Mhm.
terribly
Mhm.
for many years. And that was for me, it was the first time something like that happened, and she did not want to talk to him. She was not ready. She was
Mhm.
just like, I don't want to talk to him. I don't want him to be here. And I'm like, okay. And I was new into it, so I was like, okay, how do I heal this? Because at first I kept thinking, if it comes to me, I have to relay it,
Mhm.
right? So I just said, okay. And I took a second for myself, and I asked him to leave. I said, I'm sorry,
You
she
gotta
doesn't,
go.
you
Yeah.
got to go. So I call it park him. So I parked him,
Yep.
and I just sort of set him aside and asked him to leave. And then we went on with the reading, um and I did say to her before I set him aside, I said, that's fine. I'm asking him to leave. Just know he's handing you a peace offering when you're ready. And
Yep.
just left it at that. So I felt, okay, there was my cut, right? And so he left. We talked for a while longer. And then she said, is my uncle still there? And I said, well, I've asked him to leave, but I got his number.
Mhm.
I can call him back if you like. And then she was ready at that point. She said, because you could tell that she was distracted for the rest of the reading because it did come through. So
Mhm.
then I invited him back, and I said, and I asked her, I said, what do you need to say to him?
Great. Love that.
And she's like, tell him. And I'm like, well, you're telling him, but
Yeah, yeah. You're saying it right now.
and then she kind of told him what she needed to say. And um it was as much of a lesson for me as it was a relief for her,
Mhm.
because I got to see how that interaction, number one, I had control of the situation, and I asked him to leave and continue on the reading, and he was there, and I could bring him back, and it
And
ended
she
up
could
being
say no,
really,
right? Which is kind
yeah,
of like, isn't that just a brilliant? She can say no, he's already crossed. So she can say, nope, don't want to see
yeah,
your energy. And that was
he
an
wasn't
important thing
ready.
for her. And so that was important for you and important for her. So someone who's new to mediumship, like you were newer, you said. And so did you have that feeling of like, oops, like, or
Well, I did, like at that time, there was like a million things going through my mind
yeah.
that is, okay, how do I handle this? And then at the end of the day, I went back to, I have control, and I have to have mutual respect here.
Hmm.
He's not going anywhere. And I also know from doing this long enough that spirit doesn't get their feelings hurt. I think
No.
that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
He's not going to have his feelings hurt because I said, leave.
Hmm.
We're not, you're not invited to the party today.
Yep.
It's okay to do that. And I think thankfully I knew that before. So I was able to kind of process that all in that minute and go, respect her, respect the boundaries,
Hmm.
have enough respect for him, but ask him to just thank you, not right now.
Yes.
Time to just hold back. Part of me kind of knew that she would probably bring him back, so I just said, let's just park you over here.
Yeah.
She's not ready. And I was able to continue that. But I mean, it obviously, I've done thousands, over 1,000 readings. So it sticks in my mind because it was a
Hmm.
teaching moment. It was I had to figure out, okay, how do you deal with this situation? And thankfully, it worked out. And then she was able to, come back to it a little bit softer, say what she needed to say. And then, he came in and just said, just know he's sorry,
Hmm.
you know, and there was a couple other messages that were a little bit more specific to her. that he said. And, you know, she walked away and she talks about it now. She comes up to me every once in a while and says, you know, it helped her a lot. And it's things like that that are the reason why I do what I do, you
Yeah.
know. But I'm still learning. I've been doing this for a long time, so you know I can maneuver through it. I can speak the language. I can get myself out of little issues that pop up. Sometimes you got like two or three people in the room, say three sisters come to see me, and then something comes up that I'm like, I'm not sure they'd be comfortable. That person would be comfortable with me bringing this up in front of because I don't know. So I'm like, are you, you know, and I'll look and I'll say, I have something here, but I'm not sure that it isn't private and you might not want to share. And then they, at that opportunity, no, go ahead. You know, I don't have anything to hide from my sister. Okay. And then you know, most of the time it's something really funny and, you know, they
Yeah.
laugh about it or something, or it's something serious, but the sisters know about it or
Yeah.
what have you. And the other times I'm looking at them and I'm, you know, sort of, I have something here that I'm not sure you want to share. And they'll be like, can we talk about it later? And I'll know they know what I'm
Yes.
talking about.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, we can have another reading another time or a conversation later about it, you know. So you
Absolutely.
gotta, there has to be some of that just mutual respect in and learning, and that just comes from practice. You know, that's some people are good at it and some people aren't great at it. Some people just, well, spirit's telling me to tell you this, so I'm gonna blurt it out and tell you it. And it's like
Yep.
that just comes with the finesse of the conversation. So I'm always cognizant of that and careful with that. Um, and
And
there's
it's being
there's hard,
gentle on the people coming too, right? Because like you're
oh,
wanting to be respectful of the people who you're serving and the people who you're serving in both directions, right?
and I
Because like
know that
you are
from
an
doing
in
this.
between service.
And I know from doing this long enough that there are things like I've come home and told my husband, oh, and he always asks, you know, how was your readings? And I'm like, you know, I had this one today that I don't know that it went that great. Like I know I gave a lot of information, but I just, you know, it was a little, I didn't feel. And ultimately, those are the ones where people will get a hold of me or they'll put a big thing about how great it
hmm
was. Or they tell a friend, and then 2 months later, a friend comes and says, oh, this person told me to come see
hmm
you because she was so blown away by you. So, you know, and I'm thinking, oh, really? And I didn't think that but a lot of times people are in shock or they're
hmm
processing or they're just sitting there trying to figure things out and then they go away and they, you know, sort of review the information and go,
hmm
wow. So knowing that, I know now, words matter. What we
hmm
say matters. So I have to have enough respect for myself to be confident in what I'm saying so that because I know that it's going to matter. You know, it might come
Yes.
back on me later and I want it to be a positive thing. And I tell people we can deal with really hard subjects. We can talk about anything. I'm
Yep.
pretty open. We can talk about any subject. I'm good with that. But you know how I was saying I'm a big chicken and don't want to see negative things. I also don't want to have negative things come back on me, so I'm
Yep.
cautious with I want to know that if I'm saying it, I'm confident in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, you know,
We're
I'm
not going
gonna
into darkness just to mess around with it. We're going in for a
exactly.
purpose, right? And
Yeah. And
you
if
are
I'm
on
doing this,
purpose with what you're doing.
that's when I
Yes.
really sort of hone my skills and go, okay, this is really important. This is a space that's not just fun and love and light. This is
No.
something that is going to affect this person. So you have to have enough respect and confidence to get through that and not just leave them hanging or leave them with more questions or leave them thinking something, a cliffhanger that you know can hurt them and
hmm
emotionally or mentally going
Yes.
forward. So yeah, I think
Absolutely.
we have to do the work to do the job properly.
hmm
And after that, then just have fun with it. Because I think it is fun. It's
It
so
is.
much fun to do this
hmm
work. And you know, I find that most people when they come to see me, the first time they come to see me, they come to see if I can connect with their loved one.
hmm
And then after that, they want to come and then they have all sorts of fun stuff. You know, they want to know
Exactly.
things. They want to
Yes.
get into it a little bit better. The first time they're just kind of like, whoa, you know, like she
Yeah, and they're
can
building
pick
that
up on that.
trust. Like I always
Yeah.
prefer getting multiple sessions with someone because it allows us to go like way deeper and have these longer lasting results and these like life changing like healing moments because that is a relationship that's built out of trust. It's very rare. It does happen, but it's very rare that you get that same impact in a first session, because both people are looking to open up their energies more fully. And then as you get, when people build a relationship with a medium that they trust, it's like they always have that go-to person that can open up access when they're feeling, you know what, I need a bit more from my understanding, through someone. I go and work with, we all do, we all go work with people that we like, because it's part of how we share and exchange and get confirmation on our own feelings. Sometimes I'm listening to someone nodding, going, you're telling me everything I've seen, but this is really what I needed. Right? It's like, or
Right?
everything I knew or felt about that person, right? And you're like, yes, okay, all right, carrying on. And now we all go on our path, together, like arm in arm, because we've helped each other down the line. That's really the dream for Oracle Fest as well. I'm so excited for the Oracle Fest audience to see you. Like when you're talking about the darkness and being able to actually face it and confront these more heavy matters and these darker things, you're like, hey, I do that. And here's where I do that in my life. I got to do it. We all got to do it. Let's make it really purposeful and clear and potent and inspired action. When we are facing into the darkness, it's for a real good use. And I love that way of thinking. I think more people need to adopt that. And you've said it so succinctly. So I just want to remind everyone to like write that down somewhere or put it in your body in some way, tap that in if you're like a tapper, because that feels so key for opening up people's trust in their own oracleship as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important because we all have mental, emotional, physical things that we're going through. And I think to bring that all together, spiritual, we're all living life. We're here to experience things in this human connection that we have, and being connected to source. Um, another analogy, I think of it like a sun. We are all part of the sun. We're all part of this source. And every lifetime is us focusing. It's like a ray of light
Mm-hmm.
coming off of that sun. So we focus our energy into that ray of light, and that's our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
As we focus our energy, we can be pinched off into darkness, or we can live closer to the source.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to be on that scale? Where do you want to be in that? You're never going to be gone from source. Even in the what seems like darkness, you're still connected. That ray of light is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And when we unfocus our energy in death and go back into source, we just get closer and closer and closer to source. Sometimes that happens quickly. Sometimes we unfocus over a long time, but we all go back to source. So where we sort of live in the ray of light, where we kind of, move up and down the light closer to source or farther away, pinched off from source, that's up to us. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
experience. That's our thoughts. That's our emotions, our thoughts that create our emotions, that create our reactions, that create our actions. All those things happen within those experiences. And that brings us, you know, farther away from the source or closer to the source more fully. And as a medium, I just try to stay, up closer to source
Mm-hmm.
more and live a really positive and good light-filled life as much as I can. Not that I don't dip into some, darker areas sometimes. I've had
But that's
things
why
that
you're
happen in my life.
perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, and people are going to get to know your story, I'm sure, when you're at Oracle Fest, because I'm sure it will drift in as part of that, like in the behind the scenes sort of container aspect of it. And I think that's exactly what I love about all of these illumination focused speakers is like all of you have a story that actually is bred and led from darkness in the same way it is bred and led from light. Like it is not separate from, and that it feels so key when we're talking about illumination, because this is our solstice time. We're accepting a whole bunch more light in, and so what does that come with, and what else, does that? What else does it mean for your life? How do you actually keep states of illumination also for yourself, states of light? So I love that you're already walking this path and showing people in different ways, in real ways, how we are walking that path through frameworks and through approach of how you're seeing things as well. That is what it's about. So Diane is going to join us at the Illumination Podium for Oracle Fest on June 21st. And so she will be there also for the live reading section. So if you're curious about whatever might come through the Diane channel of however the messages, because we don't know if it's going to be mediumship focused at all yet. We have no idea how that's actually going to come through you. So it's going to be great. And anything else you'd like to share or add for people to get in touch with you before OracleFest or after this, because it'll live on the YouTube?
Sure. Just if you want to follow me on socials or, visit my website, it's just my name, DianeQuartly.com is my
Easy.
website. Everything is at Diane Quartly or Diane Quartly. Even on Facebook, I have Diane Quartly, and then I have Diane Quartly Energy Interpreter is kind of my business page. But
Great.
until my Diane Quartly gets filled up, I'm using that and
Awesome.
going with it. So yeah, just my name and we can go from there. I wrote a
Great.
book. I have a book that people can order and read my story if they would like, and it's called About a Blue Angel. And I think I have one. Just there's a lot of it's called
Beautiful.
About a Blue Angel.
I always love the imagery of that. And
Yeah.
I'll link that down below as well, just so you know.
Yeah, and just my story and the angel and the story of the angel and everything is on there. So if you want to look into that. But yeah, I'm excited and honored that you're going to be trusting me to be part of your group of Oracle Fest. I'm yeah, looking forward to it. Like you can tell, I love talking all things spirit. I can do it all day long. So
Amazing. Well, you're among friends then, because all of us are like that too. That's why we do this. So, such a pleasure, Diane, to welcome you to Oracle Mountain. We're going to be seeing more of you. I'm so happy that you're holding the pillar of mediumship for illumination. It was a really, really important pillar to me. And I was like, I felt like I was seeking in the beyond, like, who is it going to be? Who is it? And was so, so glad when the name landed on you. So, very, very honored that you're here as well. And we'll see you on the 21st.
see you then. Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
Of course.